Press the touch to accept. Now that's kind of weird, that is, that touch to accept thing, because you have to do it every time. Why is it not possible for Nissan to allow us to say, yes, it's okay for the telematics to track my every move every time you get in the car? I suppose there's always a possibility that you could have more than one driver, but it is a bit tedious. You having to press that every time. Anyway, one more thing before I get started, and that's to plug in my Apple CarPlay. I've got to plug in my iPhone. So let's get this out of here. The phone is in the bag, and I'd like to have that working, because the Apple CarPlay is one of the best things of the car. I love it. Now, plug it in sometimes, and it sometimes will actually not work straight away. I've got a message now to say it started working CarPlay, and it's come through. And gone through to Pocket Cast, which is good, which is what it's supposed to do, because that's what I was listening to last. When I was using the previous car, basically what would happen is that I would plug it in. I'd be listening to podcasts beforehand, and when I got into the car, it wanted to put some music on, which was annoying. So I had to press a few buttons to be able to get to where I was, or I wanted to be, so I could listen to whatever necessary. The other thing about the Apple CarPlay I like, is the maps. I don't like Apple Maps very much, but when iOS 12 comes, we're going to get the ability to use Waze, which is not a maps application so much as a driver's application. It's an application which allows you to get crowdsourced information. So if there are any sort of things going on out and about, such as roadworks, accidents in the highway, stuff like that, Waze is so much better than Apple Maps. Although Apple Maps does actually show when you've got live traffic information, so that is something. Now I'm going to put it into gear, and because I'm close to the fence post, it's giving me that warning sound. And I do love these cameras. I like being able to see the 360 bird's eye view, because that's great when you're pulling into a car place. You can see whether you're too close to the line behind, too close to the line in front, whether you're in between the lines in a car parking place, and that is just marvellous. My wife, she is very jealous of the fact that I've got this on my car, and I don't blame her being jealous, because it's great. Okay, so I've just been to the beach. I've had a bit of a swim, and now I'm just coming out of the beach and going back home again. One of the other things that I love about this car is the fact that I've got so much control there. If there's a chance where I've got to move quicker, like there's a thing here where you sort of pull out onto to the moving traffic, and you want to be up to speed, don't you? You don't want to sort of pull out and have to have cars sort of brake, or to have to swerve to miss you or anything like that. But the way that it kind of works in Spain is that you're kind of expected to pull out into the traffic and get up to speed. Some drivers, they don't do that. Some drivers, they pull out and they sort of go slow, or they pull out and they don't leave enough space, or they pull out and they haven't sort of got enough power to get up to speed quickly. And that was the thing with my old car, my Renault Clio. It was underpowered. It was a great car. I loved the car. I mean, I had it for 3 years and it was brilliant, but it was underpowered. And with this one here, if I need to get moving, it's brilliant with this Nissan Leaf. It's not just when you're sort of getting off the line, like when you're pulling out from a car parking space or something like that, or pulling out into the road from a junction, you stop still and you've got to get moving. It's even better when you're actually sort of going at, say, 20 miles an hour, 30 kilometers an hour, and you need to get a move on. You can do that with this car. So that's the really good thing about having a Nissan Leaf, and the thing that all the electric car drivers talk about is the fact that you've got instant torque. I do love a bit of instant torque. I've been thinking again about my trip out to Vic and a lot the other day, and the fact that I had my plan A, my plan B and so on, the fact that I was actually sort of testing out chargers and not needing them, is one thing, but it kind of makes you think that things where the infrastructure is not quite there yet for cars here in Spain. I mean, if I'd have gone to a lot and I'd have got there with 5% battery left and not many options, then I'd have been stuck, wouldn't I? My plan B, I mean, it did work out for me, but it could have been that the dealership could have been closed, the Nissan dealers I went to and actually got charged up. It could have been that I had to wait until the dealership opened again. What are these drivers going to do at this roundabout? You never can tell sometimes here in Spain. Anyway, so it could easily have been that I'd have had to wait for, could have been up to 3 hours for the dealership to open so I could get some charge. Or I could have gone to the other charger that was similar in the town, and my card might not work then there either. It might have been the problem with the card, it might have been the problem with the charger. So it's a bit sort of disappointing that there's not the sort of reliability there that I'd like to see for, you know, general sort of moving about, sort of going places, sort of charging. I mean, say for instance I was going to be driving from here to up north and I was going to go towards Paris as one of my stopping off points. I could have been on the road there, needed to have some charge, and I could have been absolutely kilometres away from getting to some place or other where I need to put some juice into the car. I could have been stuck, and I could have ended up on the flatbed of shame. So that's something to consider when you're getting an electric car. I mean, there is always a possibility that things aren't going to work out, and you do have to come on, and here we go into the traffic. Like I said, I was able to nip in behind this car and do it quickly and safely. Brilliant, I love it. I mean, the car that was coming behind this white car that I'm in front of now, it did actually pull over and let me in, but at the same time it might not have done, but there was enough of a gap there that I could get in there and do it safely anyway, so that's something. So let's see, let's get put into Pro Pilot Assist. I do love Pro Pilot Assist. Okay, now I've got to pull over myself to let a car in. He pulled in there and he wasn't really looking as to whether there's any sort of space for pulling in. He just pulled in anyway. Okay, so I'm in Pro Pilot Assist mode now, and the car in front is going slower. He's going at 84. I thought it was going faster than that. I thought that it was moving on a bit quicker, but still, I'm not too worried. I've set my speed now. I've got it set at 110, which is a bit too fast. My preferred speed on this here is 95, 96. And a car that was just pulled in front of me there, it sort of slowed me down again. That's one of the things with Pro Pilot Assist. You can have it so that some driver cuts up in front of you, and the car, your electric car with Pro Pilot Assist, thinks, hang on a minute, there's something happening here, I've got to slow down. And you don't have much choice. But still, it's all about safety. It seems to work pretty well. It might be that the car sort of pulls in front of you and it didn't need to pull in quite so soon, and it slows you down. Other drivers on the road, it's just the way it is sometimes. So what else? Other things on this car I haven't really tried much yet. There is a thing on this car here where I can actually talk to it and get it to do things, which is not part of the Siri thing. There's a button on the steering wheel here. It's got a voice activated thing. I can actually tell it to go to set up navigation for me. But you have to use a navigation that's set within the car. But I haven't used it because I haven't needed it. It's been easier for me to do the Hey Siri thing and say, Hey Siri, navigate me to home, or Hey Siri, navigate me to Girona. And one of the reasons that I haven't been using it much, and I'm unlikely to be using it too much, is because of the fact that I'm in Spain and I've got a British accent, an English accent, and some of the place names, if I was to say guide me to Terrassa or guide me to Viladrau, It might just not understand what I'm saying because I've got the English accent. It's set for the understanding English, and might not realise exactly what I need to go to. And the times I have tried to get some sort of thing going, where sort of place names and things like that, it just hasn't worked. So I'm not going to bother. It's far better anyway if you're using the navigation to set your navigation up before you go to a place, or before you get started in the car rather, and to be sort of completely set up so that you're not having to mess about with functions on the car while you're driving. That's what I think. Set up your navigation before you get started. It's much safer. It's just like this thing where you shouldn't be texting and driving. But I mean, that's the other thing with the Apple CarPlay, the fact that you can use messages. Okay, so I've just had to pull off my main road here and slow down quicker. If I'd have been paying attention rather than playing with WhatsApp, I've actually turned off my ProPilot Assist a little bit sooner. But it was okay. I mean, I knew it was coming up anyway, and there wasn't anything behind, and I've plenty of room to pull in. It's just the fact that I had to touch the brake pedal rather than rely on the regenerative power of ProPilot Assist and e-pedal to slow me down. But that's okay. No worries. Because the other thing as well is that when you're using ProPilot Assist, I've got the lane warnings turned off, because when I'm driving up this next bit of road I'm going up now, it's bendy and there are lines in the road, and it's quite easy to go over these lines, either the one that's on the inside there or the one that's down the middle. It's quite easy to go over these as you're going up the road, and every time you go over there it goes zzz. It's like the car getting an electric shock or something, you know. So I turn that off, but it turns itself back on again when you put ProPilot Assist on, which is actually, I think, a better way of doing it. I like it. A good way of having to do it. So you don't have to go back into the menus to turn on the lane warnings. All you have to do is just turn the ProPilot Assist on. Even if you haven't got it activated, it will give you a message if you're going over the line and you're straying from your lane. So that's good. I like that. The other thing that I haven't tried on here is the button for making a phone call. Again, that's because I'm using Apple CarPlay. I don't have it set up with any phone numbers within the car system. If I press the button down for making a phone call, well, actually nothing's happening. If I go to the menu for the car, I think what I'd have to do is I'd have to go through a couple of menus there to maybe start putting some stuff into the address book, or the I don't know, have they got any sort of... No, that's it. Maybe there's some sort of thing I haven't worked out yet where I can get it to do the phone calls through that there. I'll give it a try one of the days, just see if it works out. But for the moment, it's not doing anything for me. If I press the voice operating thing now,
you can interrupt voice prompts and speak a command immediately by pushing the talk switch.
Okay, so that's what it's called. It's called the talk switch. I interrupted a thing that she was saying to me by pressing the talk switch. It seems I can do navigation, I can do audio, I can get info.
Command not understood. Please say again.
No, I won't. It's nice having a car that talks to you, isn't it? Okay, so dial menu is not available to me, and I'm having to pay attention here because there's cars parked. I'm having to do a bit of a slalom course around these parked cars to get into my drive and get into my house. So anyway, so that's a bit of chat on my way back from work, and I've got two cameras working this time. So I've got my switch there to open the garage door, another switch to open the gate, and I think this is going to be a far better setup with the two cameras. Good stuff. I like it when a plan comes together. What I'll do is when I get to Final Cut, I'll sort of synchronise two versions of the audio. One version will synchronise with that camera, another version of the audio will synchronise with that camera. So I've got two views to play with, and then I can switch from this camera to this camera at will. How cool is that then? It's one of the things I can do with the cameras in the Final Cut Pro. It's multi-cut editing. It's all good and geeky stuff, you know. So let me just close the gate, and the gate doesn't go too fast, so I'm not going to get squeezed by the gate. I wouldn't want that to mark the car, it'd be pretty bad. As I'm driving into my garage here, I can see that my wife is leaning out the bedroom window, cutting bits off the orange tree. Very nice. And in we go into the garage. How about that then? Do you know what I could do? I could do with one more camera. In fact, I do have another camera. Put into park. That turns off the noises from those sensors. And now I can close my garage door. And that's that. Talk to you again soon. Bye bye now.